Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again. In today's video, a ridiculous entitled woman pepper sprayed my disabled child, claiming that disabled people devalue her precious neighborhood. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the video. It's probably the best to start this off with some context. My son was born with a fractured spine which never healed properly. This means he cannot walk, well, barely. He can do a few steps. So he has had to use a wheelchair since day one and will most likely always have to. He is 11 now and gets around fine. He's so used to it that it doesn't really cause him any limitations. Me, my wife and son moved a house a couple of months ago into a new neighborhood. The area is nice, a certain improvement from where we lived before, or so we thought. On our first day, our neighbor came over and said, "Hey, I'm Karen, your next door neighbor," she said with a smile as we were hauling boxes into the house. "Oh, hello, nice to meet you," my wife replied, chuffed to be getting to know people so quickly. "It's a lovely neighborhood, as I'm sure you can see," Karen continued, making light conversation. "Oh, I know, right? It's just lovely. Don't worry, we'll keep your lawn nice and tidy." "Oh, excellent. We've had some issues in the past with that, people trying to change their path, etc." Karen rolled her eyes at the idea. "Oh, well, we'll be changing our path," my wife replied awkwardly. "Excuse me? Why?" Karen's face had changed to one of anger. "Well, it's not wide enough for our son's wheelchair." "Your son's what? Wheelchair?" "Yes, I heard you, but why do you think this is the place for such a person?" "Sorry?" At this point, I'd walked over, hearing the strange nature of the conversation. "And who might you be?" Karen asked, hands on hips. Her husband. Now what's the issue with the path being changed?" "It will look out of place, but more to the point, your son will." "Excuse me, what? What are you trying to say here?" "This is not the area for someone like your son. You would have realized that if you had any brain. Look around, nothing is accessible. Your house has steps to the entrance and a small path, as it should be." "Yeah, no, we will just be changing things as we are entitled to do it. You know, because it's our house." Me and my wife shared a look as we watched the cogs turn in Karen's mind. She said nothing for a couple minutes before storming off to her house and slamming the door. I did not have a very good feeling about her, and I was right. The next few weeks were awful. She kept coming out and trying to disrupt the work we were having done to the house to make it accessible for our son, who was staying with my parents until the work was finished, by the way. By the end of it, we just ignored her, telling her to go away, and never worked, and arguing with her was draining. Once everything was finished, we went and picked up my son. Karen must have seen us getting the wheelchair out of the car to bring over to where my son was set. As the next thing we knew, she was charging out of her house saying, "So where's the charming boy?" she asked. "He'll be getting out in a minute," I said, a little worried for what fiasco she might be planning. "Please don't let me stop you." I walked around to his side of the car and helped him out. My wife also got out and shared a worried look with me. "Hello there, I'm your new neighbor," Karen exasperated, holding out her hand. "Hi, I'm Sam," my son replied, reaching out his hand. But just as he was about to shake hers, she pulled her hand away. "Oh, sorry, force of habit. I don't want to catch anything." "What?" I asked. "You know, I don't want to catch whatever your son has." "You cannot catch his inability to walk." "What a disrespectful comment." "Well, I don't want to take my chances." "What are you still doing here?" my wife asked. "Well, I think you guys should move," she said with a straight face. "What? We are not gonna move," I replied with a laugh. "I think you will find you will. People like your son cannot be in this neighborhood. I will fine you if you don't." "What on earth are you on about? You cannot just demand stuff like this." "You know very well. Move out now. I will ensure the next owners revert the disgusting changes you have made to your home." "We are not moving, and please stop shouting like that in front of my child, and stop acting so discriminatory towards him." "I'm not discriminating. If anything, you are discriminating against me." I laughed at this and said, "There's no way you could possibly think that." Move out now. Or tell your stupid kid to not use that ugly thing. He needs it. What is so hard to understand about this? What's your problem with it?" Like it's not obvious. It obscures the neighborhood and devalues our property values." "What? That's absurd. I've never heard something so ridiculous in my life." "Dad, what's going on?" my son asked with a shaky voice. "Nothing, son. Don't worry. Your stupid wheelchair is causing issues." "That's what's going on. You and your family need to leave from here." Karen screamed at my son, bending down and getting way too close. "Back away from my son now," I demanded, putting my hand on her shoulder and shoving her away. "Assault!" "Oh, shut up. Stop discriminating against my son, leave me and my family alone, or we will go to the police." "Are you threatening me?" she asked, and I didn't like the look that crossed over her eyes. In the next few seconds, Karen reached into her pocket and pulled out a can of pepper spray. I thought she was going to aim it at myself, but before I could stop her, she had sprayed it all over my son. It got into his eyes and mouth, and understandably, he began crying in agony. "There, it's what you deserve. Remember that feeling." Karen stormed off with a smirk. Me and my wife immediately began consoling my son, and another neighbor ran out with milk and began pouring it over his eyes, which seemed to help. She also said she would ring the police, and they were on their way. We had never met this woman before, but she seemed to know a lot about Karen. The police arrived and a paramedic began helping my son. The police took statements from us, and a little while later from my son too. This other neighbor also gave a statement, and better yet, had footage from her security cameras that showed everything that happened, as we happened to just be in the frame. There was sound too, so all of Karen's discriminatory remarks were heard as well. Most importantly, there was footage of her spraying pepper in my son's eyes. Karen came running out. "What's going on here? Oh my god, is he okay?" She had a fake look of sympathy and shock in her eyes. I was not proud of what happened next though. When she came close enough, I swung my fist and knocked her out cold. I of course then got a scolding from the police, but given the circumstances, that was all I got in punishment. They hauled Karen into their car as she began regaining conscience. My son was feeling better, but understandably was distressed, so we all headed inside and waited for the cops to come back. We had told them that we wanted to press charges. The court date rolled around and the case was almost comical. My son actually wanted to be there, said it felt exciting and would be a good story for school. Anyway, Karen made a few more outrageous comments which did not help her case. It was also revealed that there have been numerous complaints filed by ex-neighbors for other discriminatory acts against their own disabilities, so she was clearly a repeat offender of this type of thing. None of these other complaints went as far as there was little proof, but with the footage our neighbor provided of the attack, our case was an easy win. Because of the clearly premeditated nature of Karen's crime and the fact that she was a repeat offender of discriminatory acts, she was sentenced to 5 years in prison without the chance of parole. They practically had to drag her out kicking and screaming, and according to her she was doing a justice to the neighborhood. Speaking of the neighborhood, she had also been banned by the council from living there anymore. We have new neighbors now, a lovely family that are becoming good friends of ours. And yeah, Ripe Stars, if you still enjoy these stories about crazy Karens getting what they deserve, then please don't forget to like the video and maybe even post some star emojis in the comments to show your support. Thank you so much, and the next one is titled Quitting a Job in Style. I was working a second job at our local small grocery store and butcher shop few nights a week to pay for my kids' activities. I was hired as a cashier. The person that did the end of day butcher shop cleanup and sanitizing quit. So instead of hiring someone for cleanup, the owners decided that the cashiers could just do it between customers. The owners sat at their office watching TV and effing around, and when a customer came in, doorbell would ring, they would buzz the phone in the butcher area for the cashier to come check them out. When I came in for my shift at 6 PM and was told about the new setup, I told them no. I was not hired to clean up the butcher area. I was hired to run the register and stock shelves. The owner then said that I would clean the butcher shop or I could consider myself fired, and they walked away. I said fine, I grabbed my things and left, and apparently the owner thought I had given in and was doing the cleaning. So they buzzed the butcher area when customers came in for about 2 hours before someone told them no one was coming to check them out. The store's liquor area, cigarettes and scratchers got emptied out. It was 7:30 and I got a screaming phone call from the owner about how he was calling the police and I was gonna get arrested. Yeah, right. The owner did call the police, and the owner stated he wanted me arrested as an accomplice to the thefts because I had left. The cops asked me to come to the store, which I did, and I explained that the owner had fired me, so I went home and the CCTV would prove that fact. The tape was reviewed and plain as day, the owner said I was fired. I estimate they lost about $30,000. And the next one is another malicious compliance story. So there was the perfect example of malicious compliance one evening at the bus depot my brother and I used to work at quite a long time ago. Some backstory: my brother started out as a general laborer, cleaning the buses, moving them to correct locations, don't need CDLs in shop, and other miscellaneous tasks throughout the night. The supervisor was a stubborn jackass, always knows best. The supervisor was telling my brother to perform a task that was a little risky. Everyone in the area could hear the conversation pretty well because we worked close together. One night, the supervisor said to move a certain bus in between 2 other buses that were parked a little too close together. The length of the conversation went sort of like this: "Brother, I don't feel comfortable backing a bus in there. That's pretty close." Supervisor: "I thought you were good at parking these." Brother: I am, but those are just a little too close. It won't fit. Supervisor, make it fit. I'm sure you can see where the malicious compliance is about to come into play. The supervisor told him to stop making excuses for not wanting to work. He assumed all the workers were lazy because it's union. Brother, okay, will do, boss. As he backed in, everyone in the shop started staring because they knew it would be bad. The whole shop was taken over by the loud scraping noises. The sub ran over yelling, "What the hell are you doing?" Brother, making it fit. By this time, the supervisor was pissed and said, "Now you have to write an accident report." Well, my brother was compliment on the end as well. As he wrote the accident report, he reads it out loud. Supervisor told me to park bus in lot C. I explained I didn't feel comfortable and it wouldn't fit. And well, he told me to make it fit. Before he could finish, the supervisor cut him off and said, "What are you doing?" Brother, writing the incident report. Okay, don't worry about it, I'll take care of this." Brother, okay, that's fine. Everyone watched as this happened, and it was the talk around the shop for quite a long time. Management never brought this incident back up, and the supervisor must have brushed this under the rug as to not get himself in trouble. About a year after that, my brother was actually promoted to supervisor and then eventually to the manager of the shop. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. I live by myself, so there's no need for me to have a large house, but I sprung for a place that had a large garden so I could sit outside during the warm months and enjoy the birds or insects that moved around the yard. I had recently taken up gardening as something to do to keep me occupied when I wasn't at work, and it was the perfect hobby for me as it got me out of the house. Before that, I spent most of my free time watching television or messing around on my computer, which is not the best thing for my eyes. Being able to head outside and plant new flowers with the sun shining down on me was a nice way to spend the weekend. Plus it means my backyard looks beautiful. So I have a neighbor named Karen who clearly has something against me that I haven't been able to figure out yet. She is part of the local homeowners association, which means she feels she has the right to tell other people what to do. For example, I got a letter one time that told me to dispose of some of the flowers in my yard as they were an eyesore that they wanted me to get rid of. I was confused since the majority of the flowers were not visible from the street and could not possibly bother anyone except for the people on either side of me. I knew it had to be Karen because the man who lived on the other side of me was friendly and his wife often gave me advice for keeping my plants healthy. There was no way they would report me to the HOA if they had a problem instead of coming to me with any and all issues. I refuted the letter and explained that I had no intention of getting rid of my flowers and I was told I could keep them in my yard since it seemed the other members of the HOA were not as crazy as Karen. She confronted me once when I was outside admiring my garden and she stormed over to me. I looked up from my watering can and said a warm hello, but she ignored my greeting and raised her voice at me. "Karen, it's your fault that I have all these bees in my yard." Me, what? "Karen, there are bees all over my yard. They were not here before you moved in, so I know it's because of you." Sorry, but it's not like I'm a beekeeper. I just like flowers. Plus, bees are nearly endangered, so it's good that you're seeing more of them. Karen, well, I don't like them, so you need to get rid of your flowers. Me, you tried to do that before, Karen, and it didn't work. I'm not getting rid of them. I love gardening. Karen, I think it's strange that you like to garden. Why is that strange? Because you're a man. You should be fixing things or working with tools, not playing around with flowers. Well, Karen, did you actually need something? Because I would like to get back to my plants. I continued watering my flowers and Karen eventually walked off with a huff. I was not interested in having a discussion with someone who was so rude and disrespectful for no good reason, so I was glad that she left. I had not seen that many bees in my own yard and they have a tendency to keep to themselves unless bothered, so I did not see what the big deal was unless she was allergic or something. Either way, I did not feel like it was my fault or warranted getting rid of all my plants. For context, I'm originally from Germany and I am in touch with my roots in a variety of ways. I also enjoy having a couple of beers on the weekend to unwind, especially when I can drink them while looking out over my garden. It is relaxing and peaceful and I like to try out different types of beer since there are so many brands and flavors out there that I want to eventually taste. And I bet OP is enjoying all those damn passion fruit and mango IPAs. Good lord. Anyway, I keep a record of everything that I try and I rank it, but that's more for myself than anything else. Karen seems to have a problem with that as there have been a few occasions where she comes out to yell at me while I'm enjoying a beer and telling me that I'm disgusting for enjoying alcohol openly. I reminded her that I was on my own property and to kindly leave me alone, which she did, but not without some attitude. This year I decided to hold an Oktoberfest party for my friends and neighbors. It was not anything huge as I don't have enough space to host a big event, but there were a decent number of people. I told everyone to bring their favorite beer so we could all have something to drink and so everyone could try something new. Some people were in the house watching television or chatting with each other, while the rest of us were hanging out in the backyard. We were scattered over the property, but I made sure people were not being too loud or throwing their trash in my perfect garden or something like that. However, Karen was not happy about the situation. I had seen her poke her head out a few times to see what we were doing, and I had hoped she was just curious about the party, but it became clear that that was not the case. She came over the first time to ask us to please keep it down, and I relayed the message to everyone before inviting her to join us, but she declined and went back to her house. I cannot say that we were quiet, but it was only 6 in the evening, so it was not like anyone was trying to sleep or something. She came out later again with a disgusted look on her face. Karen, do you have to drink so much? Me, it's an Oktoberfest party, so the beer is a necessary part. We have some non-alcoholic beer if you wanna try that. Karen scoffs, no, I don't want that disgusting crap. Tell your guests to stop drinking now. Neighbor, we are not going to listen to you, lady. Me, you can either join us or leave, but I don't appreciate you trying to control what my guests do here. At this point, she slapped the can of beer out of my hand and tried to push me back, but was not quite strong enough. Me, what the hell is your problem, Karen? You need to leave my property now. Karen, I'm calling the police since you won't stop drinking. Her antics had drawn the attention of most of the people at the party, and they were now looking in our direction, whispering amongst each other. I watched as she called 911, knowing full well that I was not in the wrong and that the police would agree with me on that. She stared us down with her arms crossed while she waited for the police car and then got a smug look on her face when they arrived, as if she would be victorious at the end of this encounter. A middle-aged cop came up with his younger partner and I introduced myself since this was my house and my party. I started explaining the situation, but Karen cut me off and complained that we were being loud and drinking alcohol. The cop seemed kind of confused by that, and she actually tried to claim that it was illegal for us to be drinking out in the open. The older officer calmly explained to her that people were allowed to drink on their own property and that as long as we were not trespassing on her land, we could have as much alcohol as we wanted. She did not like that answer and said as much, which caused me to respond by laughing at her. That pushed her too far and she rushed at me and started hitting every part of my body she could reach. It did not exactly hurt, but it did shock me and I tried to back away, but she kept following me and throwing punches. The younger officer grabbed her arms and told her to stop, but she kicked at him and elbowed him in the face. That caused the other officer to step in and he held her back with ease, slapping cuffs on her and reading Karen her rights. One of them stayed to take a statement from me since this whole situation had turned into her assaulting me and a police officer. I pressed charges even though I knew they were not going to let her off the hook for assaulting an officer. Honestly, I just did not want to deal with her anymore. I have not seen her in a while and I have a feeling she might end up selling her home to pay for the various legal fees and fines that she might be facing. She was kicked out of the HOA because they don't look too kindly on one of their members getting arrested. The rest of my party went great since the guests had something exciting to talk about and no one else was going to stop us from enjoying our beer. And yeah, Ripe Stars, it seems like sometimes if you have an entitled neighbor that tries to make your life miserable, if you just wait it out, at some point they might do something super stupid like calling the police on you and then assaulting a police officer, so pretty much the problem takes care of itself. I guess you just need to have the patience to endure this Karen misery. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist, where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.